Hi, I'm Terri Meyer, and today we're out in beautiful Ohio, and we're on my ranch, and this is a river that runs across the back of our property. And so I'm going to set up here, and I'm going to paint the river today. There's a little farming going on behind me, so there could be some extraneous noise. They're spraying for soybean weeds. It's that time of year, and we've had a lot of rain. This is the first day I've been able to paint outdoors for 2 weeks, because we've had rain every day. So it is just, as you can see, a beautiful day, and so we're going to paint this scene. So join me at the easel. Okay, so I have taken a few minutes, and I have done a quick value sketch of the composition that I'm going to paint today in Plein Air Pastels. So take a look at that, and then let's get started. So I have my easel already set up. That's probably one of the hardest parts about this whole painting process, is getting organized. So I'm going to use my thumbnail sketch, and I am going to start drawing out my design. The gravel bank is about right here, and it comes up to about right here. Now this is the halfway point, so I have a grass bank that's about right here. So I'm just looking here to see how that comes over, like this. Like that. And there's a tree that comes up in here. Might be over just a bit. Okay, and there's some background trees here that I want to capture, because it's going to add depth to the painting. It's going to add the perspective, having this tree line, because we're going to make it kind of grayed out. I got to tell you, this is the most fun part. Once you've got a composition and you know the direction that you're going, and then it gets real exciting to see it come together. So I think that tree is actually more right here. There's a couple of small ones right next to it, and it comes over actually all the way over to here with some limbs. Now what I'm going to do on this one, sometimes I do this and sometimes I don't. I'm going to do an alcohol wash, and that will set my drawing. And also I'm going to put in some darker values to kind of get a structure to the painting right from the very beginning. Now the darkest part of my painting is going to be in this area right here. The sun is coming this direction. It's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. As I said earlier in the introduction, it has been raining excessively here in Ohio all summer long. We thought we were going to have a dry, hot summer. Well, I'll tell you what, we were totally wrong, because it has just rained and rained, and you think you can go outside and paint, and then it starts raining again. So I have not had an opportunity to do a lot of painting this summer because of that. So I'm taking advantage of a nice day. Okay, now this bank actually is probably more right here. And this comes up a little bit, even though this comes up on a hill, and this comes up a little higher here and down. I'll, of course, modify this as I'm moving along. Okay, okay, and then this bank dips over to here, and it's a little lower than halfway point. There it's about the halfway point, and so it mimics the bank size over here. So I'm just looking and evaluating to see how everything falls into place. Okay, and then there's some trees in here. There's another nice tree about right there. Some foliage, and then there's a tree coming with some branches right off the side of my picture here. And we want to capture that because it's kind of a nice burgundy color. I like that a lot. And then this tree goes all the way up. And the sky is, it's clear today. There's not even a cloud in the sky. So that's going to be good because our focus is going to be on this the Jerome Fork and not the sky. So, alright, and there's a sky hole right in here. 2 sky holes. Now, I know that looks like a hot mess right now, but hey, that's okay. You got to get started at some point, and so this is my roadmap, and it's going to take me where I want to go. Alright, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm trying to decide what color I'm going to use for the backdrop. I think I'm going to use a charcoal gray. And if you notice in this video, I'm using a different color paper. I'm not sure what the color is. I'll have to look in my notes to see what this yellow is, but I've been using a lot of dark, almost a dark burgundy color. And so I wanted to just try something a little different this time. So I'm putting in the background trees. And they're kind of it's a green-gray color. And these are going to be some of the darkest part of this painting. And then there's also a distant tree line back here, which is going to be a little bit lighter. Okay, and then this is all very dark right through here. It goes all the way up. And as I paint plein air, I keep trying to find different ways where I get better footage and better anchoring of my pastel paper, because when it gets windy, this has a tendency to want to fly off. So what I did was I cut a mat and I just used clips to secure my paper, and I think that's working a little better for me now. And I'm not getting as much movement, at least so far. Okay, just making some hints of trees up in here, or hint of a tree, and this is dark right through here. There's also a nice dark shadow in the water. And then along the riverbank. Dark in here. And there's some light coming through here. And as I said, the light's coming in from this direction. And it's probably about that level in the sky. So this is being hit by sunlight. Okay. Looks pretty good. Okay, and then this is all shades of green in this area, but I do want to put a little bit of a definition to the riverbank. And this is kind of a sand gravel bar here. And then there's a little bit of depth in this area here, but I'm not going to worry about that. This is kind of the direction that I want to go here. So alright, so that's my first layer, and I'm trying to decide if I want to put some wild colors in this to start with. I think I'm going to put this kind of orangey color here in the water. It's going to be a grassy green, a moss green actually, but this will help give it some vibration, because I do see some of that right through here as I get a reflection off. I'm just going to put that in there for now. And I always like to put the pastels that I use on my little foam board, which is to my left. I'll show that to you later in the video, how I do that. Okay, and so I also noticed that I've got a tree over here. This is kind of a significant tree. I'm going to put that guy in. And then the branch comes up about like that. And I noticed that there's some color around in here. I'm just going to kind of sketch that, put that in there. And I think that's all I'm going to do for the underpainting at this point. So I have an alcohol wash that I carry around, and this is, I think, for salad dressing actually. And I'm going to use some of that. And then I have, this is a watercolor cup that's collapsible. So I'm going to put my alcohol wash in that. And so there's not a whole lot in there. If you can see, just put a little bit. And then I'm just going to go and scruff that in. And if you're wondering, I'm using pastel mat as my substrate. That's the only pastel paper that I use because I like it so much. And it's what I'm used to, so I never switch it up. I just use that because I feel comfortable with it. I know how it reacts. It's durable. I can wet it, and it withstands the moisture. And I like the sandiness of it. It gives you a painterly quality to your pastels, like you're working in oils. Some of the other papers don't do that. And this is actually when I started doing pastels, a friend of mine, artist friend, recommended this and gave me a sample of it. And that was the first time I'd ever done really pastels, since probably high school. And I just loved it. I didn't think I'd be very good at it, but because I was used to oil painting and watercolors, but I fell in love with it, and I find that I just enjoy it outdoors because you don't have the solvents, other than if you use the alcohol, but you don't even have to use that. There's nothing that beats painting outdoors because you get all the sensory. And really, you get sensory, you get visual of really nature. And then you get to interpret it the way you want to interpret it in your painting. So you put yourself into the painting when you interpret it, however you do that, whether it be abstract or representational or impressionistic, however you want it to depict that. It's a part of you. It's kind of like you're becoming one with nature. Alright, so I'm just going to give that a couple minutes to dry, and I'm going to pause the video for a second and come back and start the regular pastel part. Okay, I've let this dry. Now I'm going to go ahead and start working on the sky. And the sky is this pretty blue color. And I'm going to start a block in here. The only thing bad about doing videotaping is I have to work around the camera, which is right in front of me, so it gives me some funny angles here. So I know there's going to be a tree that goes in here, or branches, but I'll just go ahead and lock that in. There's some sky holes in here. Put that in. And then I don't want to make this all the same color, so I'm going to add some pink near the bottom. It's going to break up that tone of the sky all being the same, because very rarely do you have just one color. You always have multiple colors in the sky, no matter how subtle it might be. And then I like to use a blending stick to come back in and okay, and then a blending stick is this. It's just a piece of cardboard, and I find they're very, very handy. So now some pastel artists, they don't use blending sticks. Instead, what they would do is they kind of cross-hatch like this and blend it that way, which works quite nice as well. It's just a matter of technique and what you feel comfortable with. I'm just showing you how I typically operate, and you take what I show you and you make it your own by doing whatever feels comfortable for you. That's what makes us all different artists. So you can use a combination of both if you like. Alright, so I've got that. Now the next thing that I want to do is, this is very, I'm doing a block in right now, so this is very blue compared to the sky. So I'm going to take this color that I'm using, and I'm going to find something that's a little more intense, and I'm going to, and that's too intense. Alright, let's see here, what do I have? Probably this one here. Yeah, I don't know if you can see the differences in color. So I'm gonna put this in right now. And I'm getting a reflection here of this tree line in the foreground here, so I'm going to make note of that. Now this back here, there's a light coming, and I think that actually, if I'm using the sky color, I think that is actually a little too dark, so I'm going to go a little lighter, probably a light gray, and here's the light gray. Almost white. Maybe I should go a little darker than that. We'll do that for now. I can always tone it later. So I'll put that in there. And now I want to use some greens. And sometimes I have a sheet of paper. I'm going to show you here. And I make a little to see if that's the color I want. And that color actually is good in here because that's a little darker, but I need something lighter. So this is a good way to test out your pastels without actually putting it on the paper. Need something a little lighter. I think this one might be, it actually needs to be lighter than that, so let me go, let's see here, I think this one's even lighter. Yeah, this is the color I'm looking for, if you can see that. This is the mark I just made. Okay, so I'm going to Block that in. Comes around, this bank is casting a shadow into the water. And then this gets a little bit darker over here. And then some of this red's showing through, so I'm just going to lightly put that in. And then going back here, it's a little darker in this area, so I'm going to put a little darkness there, and then this is casting a shadow here, and I think that's a little too dark, so I'm going to go back to this one that I had originally. That seems to be more the tone I'm looking for. So that comes across like that, and then this is the same thing, this reflecting the bank here. Okay, now there's a lot of different colors of green in this, so I'm going to go back now into the tree line, and I'm going to be using, it's got a little blue to it, and I'm going to see if this is the color that I'm wanting. And I do like this color because to me that represents what I'm seeing right now. Now it's a little lighter on this side. In fact, I'm looking at this color, and I'm looking to see if I have something a little bit lighter. And I think this is in the same. It's a little lighter, but it's also a little warmer. I don't know. It's going to be too warm because I want it to recede visually and not come forward. But I'm kind of don't have anything else, I think, in my palette here that I could use. Let me look here. I've got some other stuff that's really light. See, that's really light. I think that might be too light. Let me kind of test that. Maybe if I blend them together here, that might work. So you just gotta go with what you got on hand and make it work. So I'll add a little bit of light to that, and I think that'll do what I'm trying to make it do here. I'm attempting to get the perspective. So these trees, you can see them. However, you don't want them to jump forward in the painting. You want them to be a backdrop. And it's interesting because when I'm looking at the trees back here, this is dark right here compared to this right here. So the way the light's hitting it back here is a little different. So I'm going to just add a note of darkness there. And then I'm going to come back in with my pink to soften that. Okay, now I'm going over here. Now this is darker, and I'm going to go back in. Now I've got 3 colors here that I'm working with. I'm going to go back in with this color. I'm really liking this color a lot. And then I see there's hints of darker, and I'm thinking that might be too dark. Let me go with this and see how I like that. Yes, this is better. This is too dark. This is better. So I'm going to put these, again, to my left I have a sponge board that I keep these colors, so I know what I'm doing here. Keep them organized. I'm going to put a little of this in there. this bank kind of dips down a little bit, and that's the darkest part of the bank. So you go back. So it's kind of like back and forth here. And, you know, I had originally said I'm going to do my block in, and now I'm getting in the development stage. So I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing here. I'm getting excited and seeing it come together already. And okay, so I probably should stop that and move on to the next block in portion. I'm going to go ahead and put this yellow, kind of a yellow, yeah, definitely this color. And also there is a tree line that I want to capture back here, so I'm going to just gently put that in here. And then I'm going to take that pink again and go back into it. And I'm just going to soften that. Don't want any hard edges in a nature scene. Everything's soft, because it's nature, no structures, so you shouldn't have any hard edges in this type of painting, other than maybe a tree trunk would be a little harder than the foliage. Okay, now this is all yellow-green, and I'll develop that here in a little while. This is also a yellow, but what I need to do is I need to make this more gray. And I have to find, let me see here. I don't want it too dark, but I want it more gray. So I'm thinking this might be, yeah. Again, see how that recedes now? It's still yellow, but you're not going to have as much chroma or color, as they say. Now there's some little highlights on the bank, and I can put that color in there just to indicate that. And it's lit across the top, but I do not want that to pop out and ruin my perspective. Okay, so that's that. I'm going to go ahead and continue putting in this. And again, refine it here in a short while. Okay, so there's that. And then this color is very similar over here, but it's a little darker on the side. So I'm going to go and I'm going to find probably, it's darker and it's more of a green. So sometimes it's really hard to decide. This is more like that, but it's too dark. Maybe that's a green-gray. Just finding that right. This might be. That's very, very bright. That's too bright, I think. I'm not going to use that one. Again, I'm going to look for my paper, which fell behind me here, and I'm going to look at some colors. That one might be okay. Let's see here. When I blend it with other colors, so I'm going to go ahead and put that along this bank here. It's a little too chromatic right now, but I think if I add some other stuff to it here, it's going to make it work. And again, you can add a complement. So if I added a soft red or an orange to that, that will help tone it down. So I might just go ahead and do that right now. Just put it in there. I'm still not developing. I'm just blocking in here just to get a sense of my direction. Okay, so there's a light on this, so I'm going to go ahead, even though this has got more chroma than probably this color I'm using, I'm going to go ahead and put that in. And this actually should mimic this shadow in the water, so it should be right underneath that to make it read properly. And I'm going to go ahead and put that there. And I'm going to leave that for now, and then I'll develop it here. Now this is a wristband here. It's kind of a pink, it's a very pink purple color, and there's some red in it. I don't want to get too aggressive with the red. I know, I'm going to go ahead and put this right here at the bottom because that's the darkest part. So I'm just going to add that, scruff that in. Alright, now I definitely am seeing a lot of purple in this, so I'm going to pick this color. And actually that is really, really good here. I like that a lot. Now as I go this direction it gets lighter, so it becomes more of a pink color. So I'm looking to see what I have that might work. I have this color that's kind of a putty. Let me see if that's, it's not too bad, but it doesn't have enough pink in it. So I'm going to see. I know there's a color that I've used before that I just absolutely love. It could be, let me see if this is it. That, actually, I like that transition better than I like this one. So I'm going to put that one back, and I'm going to use that because it does have more pink in it. But then we're going to definitely really pink over here. Now that might be a little too pink. Again, I know I have something in my pastels that is going to work. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and use this just to get it laid in for right now, and then let's see if I can find that other color. Let's see if that one, that's a cooler. See the difference here? This is cooler, this is warmer. And I'm going to keep both of these out on my sponge board just to go back to that and make a decision on what I like and what I don't like. So I'm going to go ahead and block that in. Okay, now so I got that gray in there, and I'm going to go back into the water here. And then there's a sky hole that's peeking through here. I didn't realize it was, that's this one here that I had put in originally. It's actually, let's see here. Actually, I don't have, you have to look at things in relationship. And so I'm looking at this reflection right now. And this reflection actually starts right here after this. And so my reflection of the trees behind here are a little taller than what they come out like this more. And then there's a darkness back here that I didn't capture. There's also a highlight back here. And I might go back and where the light's hitting it right back here. Put that in there. And then this water should be straight across. And then my bank actually comes across like this. Okay, I'm going to take a break for a minute, and then I'm going to come back, and then I'm going to start developing this painting. Okay, I took a step back and looked at the composition, and it's coming along. So I'm just going to continue working in the direction I've been going here, and I'm going to start just developing areas here. So I'm going to work on this sky a little bit more, and I'm looking for the pink that I thought I'd set aside. Maybe this is it here. And I want to make sure that this tree line is not all straight across, because there's dips in it. Okay, I don't want to get too fussy here, because that's not what I'm trying to portray in the painting, is that little tree line. I just want to make sure that it's soft enough that it recedes into the background. Okay, now I just want to work some of the sky into that tree on the edge, because that's going to be showing up. And there's several sky holes in this tree that I'm trying to pick up here without overdoing it, just giving it a hint. Sometimes you can get too fussy, and that's one of my problems that I've struggled with as an artist, being too fussy about things, and then the painting looks sterile. It doesn't have any life to it, so you can overwork it, definitely. I want to go ahead and put in this tree here, and I'm using a pastel pencil to do that. And I'm just going to go ahead and, it's just easier than using my chunky pastels. There's a couple of trees that come up behind it. Okay. Put those in there. This kind of hints. And then there's a lot of foliage that's coming down. It's a yellow-green color, so it's going to be a nice transition from the background here. So I'm just going to mess that up a little bit, because I do not want that to have any hard edges. Okay, now I have to find that right yellow-green, and I'm going to see if this is it. It's this one here, is too dark, it needs to be brighter. So I'm looking at this one here. Yes, this is it, because I want it to pop forward. This is being hit by the sunlight. And then over on this side, it's very dark. It's actually more along this line. Now, I thought this mat would make it easier, but it makes it hard for me to work around, unfortunately. I can't get up there to the edge, so I'll probably have to take that off at the end to fix that. And so this darkness comes over to here. And then I think I'm going to take another pencil. I'm taking a brown pencil here, and I'm just restating these. They're not as dark as the front tree trunk. And then I'm going to take purple color and just make this trunk a little more dramatic. Purple is a really, instead of using black, I find purple is a nice color. It's pleasing to the eye and it's not so harsh. So I just want to restate that tree because it's in the foreground compared to the other ones. The other one's in the backdrop. And I just want to make that trunk a little more substantial. Okay, and now I'm going to go back in. This is probably a little too dark for this, so let me see if this one will work better. It's too yellow. Let me see if this gray. That's better, because this over here is lighter, and even in the shadow, I do not want that. Maybe add just a little bit of that in there, but not a lot. And you've got to jump forward. And then there's some more up in here too, just a little bit, as the sun is kissing the leaves of those trees. And then over here, there's a little variation, and I have to find, it's probably more along this green. So just put a little bit of that color variation in there, so it's not all totally dark. We'll give it more dimension. Alright, I'm going to leave that for now, and I'm sure I'll come back to it at the end. Now I also notice there's a nice deep shadow in here, and I'm going to put that in. It comes up like that. Okay. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to add some variation there to that. Okay. And now I'm going to look at this hill here, and I see that kind of a pinkish brown. And looking for that right color again. That's too light. Don't want to go terracotta, that's too real. I like a little bit of orange. It's kind of a little orange in there, but probably don't need it because I've got that orange already stated in there. So I'm going to just add a little of that. Blend it in. And that's adding a little life to this. I notice that there's some of that color over in this area too. That pink just really makes that come alive. Basically it's just weeds, it's intertwined. And you see the contrast with the yellow because of that. I like that. That looks good. Good. Okay, now I'm looking at this in the background here, and I've got that too light. And I think what I'm going to do is add some shadow to that, because it is being hit by light. And I like the variation in the, you see how the creek is, or the small river, whatever. I don't know what the difference between a creek and a river, if there's a size difference or what the proper terminology is. Well, I know this is called the Jerome Fork, which I believe goes down to the Ohio River. And if we're looking this direction, this is north, the water's flowing this way to the south. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and continue developing this area here. So I've got some deeper tones. I'm going to add kind of it's a gray. It looks good with that pink. And the foliage gets a little more green as it comes toward me. So I'm going to add, it's definitely a yellow green. But I don't want to get too aggressive with the color. You want to use some of these colors sparingly, because then it makes your painting look too garish. And I have that problem. My colors, I mean, I can get a representation of the scenery pretty good, but sometimes I get a little garish with my colors, and then it doesn't look as natural as I want it to. So it doesn't look so bad when I blend it with the gray and the other color. It definitely helps a lot. Okay, and I'm still not real happy with this pink color. I think that maybe adding some purple to that
That's too dark of a purple. Let's see what I've got for a light purple. Maybe that will help tone it down. Still too dark. Go with this. And then there's some dimension to these kind of shrubbery here, weeds, whatever it is. Let's see here, a little bit of and then I'm going to add, let me see if this, combined with that yellow, I think will work. It's a little different when you work with oils because well, actually not really, because you can blend the colors on your palette or you can blend it on your canvas depending on your style. And so pastels is, well, you can't blend it on your palette, that's for sure. You've got to blend it on the paper. Now I want you to notice the difference of this yellow compared to this yellow back here. They definitely are different tones, and if I were to use that same color back here, it would throw off the painting because it would make it all look one-dimensional. But by varying your colors, it should be more gray as you go back into the atmosphere, and brighter colors, more clean colors as you come forward. I'm adding a little more green, a more vibrant green here in the foreground. And then just a tad bit of that. And I'll come back and reassess that at the end, but just kind of developing it now. And now I'm looking at, okay, this bank here. It's definitely it's very dark. A lot of stones in here. So I'm going to add some charcoal color. And I kind of want to make those stones appear like they're going into the water also. And I still haven't found that right color for this. And I don't think I have it. If I did have it, I must have used it all up. And so I'm going to just go with what I've got and hope it works. Blend it as much as I can to tone it down. This bank kind of comes that direction, so I'm going to do my marks that way, and then it kind of levels out when you get over here. And there's some deeper tones in this area here. And there's a highlight that comes right across here, so I'm going to make note of that. Soften that tree trunk just a bit. It's bothering me. I jump around sometimes when I paint, and I try to be a little more systematic, but You got to go with the flow, what feels right. That's what makes the painting a success. Go with what you're feeling. Okay, and then I'm going to take, again, even though this is working better with this canvas not moving, it's hard for me to work to the edge of this. Okay, and then there's some extraneous debris in here, but I'm not going to worry about that. It's kind of riffraff. My husband puts it in to help the erosion of the river. Okay, again, I need to bring that pink down into here. Let me add a little orange to that because I do see some orange in there. And I don't think I've got that deep enough either, so I'm going to add a little bit of hint of green in here. I mean, this is really dark, but when I blend it, it'll... And there's some in here too. This. It gives it more dimension. It also shows the slope of the bank here, how it comes down into the river. And I'm just creating shapes. I'm really not painting anything. It's just shapes, so it visually draws your eye. And I'm going to add, let's see if that, no. Going to add a little bit of lighter color in there, but don't want to, like I said, I don't want to do much of that until the end to give it the pop that it needs. But you get in there too soon and it can ruin the integrity of your structure on the painting. So you have to refrain sometimes from getting too excited. I know that I definitely have that challenge. I get excited about things and lose the rhythm of the painting. Yeah, I really like the pink back in here. That's nice, nice, nice. It really shows the change in foliage. Okay, and I do like back. What I might do is get a little deeper. Because that's getting closer to us, and so I can add a little more intense color in these areas. Okay, and going back to I'm going to leave this alone for now, and then I'll come back to it at the end. And I need to step back and see how this is reading as a painting. And I'm just bringing a little yellow in there to transition that. It's helping. And then I'm going to add a little more pink. because I'm seeing more weeds up in here. Okay, again stepping back to see how this is coming along. And I have that too bright. So add a little bit more, tone that down a little bit. Okay, now I want to stake the bank back here, and I'm just going to use my pencil for that. And then actually let's cover up for this. Okay, now I'm also noticing that when this water is much lighter on this side, I'm going to get a lighter blue. I can find the blue. I'm going to combine the two here because it's, I think here this goes over. Okay, and then this should mimic that. Didn't need to do that. Okay, so this should be in alignment with that sky hole there. And I need to take it up a little bit higher. And then this water comes across. Like that. Because there's a bend in the river right through here. And then I need to restick that back there. And then I have a gray, green, Okay, so now I'm liking the way that's looking. And then I'm going to lighten that up just a bit. I'm adding just a little bit more yellow in that. Okay, and now I'm seeing that this color, I think I'm going to use a soft pink for that. So it's getting closer to us. I like that. And I'm seeing some blues in there. Since it's kind of a blue-purple, I'm going to add a little bit of that. Striations of that. I'm just softening that. Okay, and then that green that I was using, it comes down like that. Water shimmers, so if you notice how I'm using my blending stick, I'm going back and forth. That's too dark. That's too yellow. There we go. That's the color I was looking for. Like that. And I'm going to add that. I think I like that pink better than I like it's more of a really light gray. And it's very light right through here. And so I'm just going to add a little bit of color variation. And then the green that I'm using here, now this gets pulled down to here, and then this green is definitely much lighter. And in a few minutes I'm going to step back. Sometimes it's hard to see what you're doing if you're so close to your painting. You're looking at the scenery, but sometimes stepping back you'll see things that aren't reading just right. Just little tiny shifts here. That's what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to step back and pause this for 1 second. I step back, and one thing that I did notice that I have this too dark here, and I'm going to, right now, since I saw that right away, I'm just going to lighten that up a bit. That makes it better. Okay, now moving on to this area, I think I'm going to wait because I want to put this foliage in on this side. So there is, there's more trees that come up like this and over like that and this. So I'm going to go ahead and put those in, and I'm going to use it's kind of a blue-green, and it's kind of like they're coming out like this, and actually a couple of them are a little lighter in value than, so this is the same color range, but the values are different. So I'm gonna use this lighter. And so the trees are coming up like this. There's a lot of that darker green coming down into here, which is reflecting. See, it's not reflecting exactly because the angle of the sun. It's not reflecting down here at all. The bank is reflecting down, and I'm just going to pull that down like that. It softens it. Right now, there's quite a bit of this dark. When I got back to the studio, I decided to check the painting against the photograph that I had taken, and I did make a couple of alterations to improve the painting. I softened the gravel bank, I added a little bit of a brown to the purple, and I put a few more dark highlights into the grassy area right above the gravel area. And also noticed that because the lighting was so different outside, the painting is much more muted in real life, as you can see by this final depiction of it. But once again, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video and learned something along the way. Please leave me a comment, a thumbs up, and subscribe to my channel. And I'll see you back on the next episode.